Exploring theology, doctrine, and all of the fascinating subjects in between, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, Dead Men Walking starts
now.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dead Men Walking. I am Greg Moore.
And I am Jason Hamlin, and I'm excited to be here today, Greg.
All right. Jason's had his coffee.
Oh, yeah.
What are you drinking there? You drinking...
It's seltzer water.
No caffeine in that, huh?
Ice Mountain. You better get a hold of us, Ice Mountain.
You're like, we want sponsorship.
Yeah.
Ice Mountain.
It's actually really good.
So you're all juiced up on seltzer water.
Yeah, lemon lime.
Is what you're saying.
If you go to Kroger, they have a plethora of different flavors, and it's a really good pop alternative, if you will. And I'm not really the pop guy. I used to, when I was a kid, I was all about, Pepsi Cola, RC, those
RC Sproul. Sorry, I had to say that.
Yeah,
Can't say RC on a Reformed podcast.
I thought I would say one that was like from the 1950s that nobody drinks anymore. But
RC was pretty good back in the day, though.
It was, man. It was really good. I'm sure there was real sugar in that one.
You mentioned Kroger.
Yeah.
I'm sure anyone listening in the United States knows what Kroger is. Yep. But as you know, according to our stats, we have 6 different countries listening. But for our United States listeners, Kroger, okay, which one do you think is higher on the Fortune 500 list?
Out of
Kroger, Verizon, and AT&T. Now think of those 3 companies, how large they are. AT&T has over 300,000 employees globally. Okay.
See,
which one is a larger company? Which one's higher up on the Fortune 500
right now
list?
I'm trying to think of the stock prices that they have.
I'm talking total volume and revenue and sales.
Man, I mean groceries comparative to phone companies. I mean, phone company. Everybody has a phone.
Everyone has a phone.
Everybody has a phone.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. The largest one I would say out of those 3 would probably be Verizon.
It's Kroger.
Really?
Yeah, Kroger ranks.
Trick question then.
Kroger ranks about 12th on the Fortune 500, and Verizon and AT&T flip-flop between 17 and 18 and 16 in there.
These super Krogers are starting to show up. We just got one.
Now that stats from 2010.
Oh, really? Oh, jeez.
So I can be totally wrong by now. Someone go look it up.
Somebody
and
needs to fact check this guy.
Someone fact check me and say.
Man.
I just was surprised because when I read that a few years ago, it's not 2010, but it was a few years old. It could be different now.
Right.
I couldn't believe how big Kroger is. You just think of Kroger as, like a Meijer. Like we have Meijer around here in the Midwest. Right.
Meijers, if you're in the north.
Well,
right?
it's Meijer.
You add the S.
It's Meijer if you want to say it correctly.
Yeah.
Meijers if Walmart,
Meijers,
Ford's,
Kroger's.
Fords.
Yeah, I work at Ford's.
So Ford's. Yeah, we add S's to everything in the Midwest.
Exactly.
Cheeseburgers. I just couldn't believe how big of a company it was.
Yeah,
I just thought of it as like a regional food chain.
Man. I did not know that. But they do have a lot of really good food there.
You're gonna have to go look into some Kroger stocks.
I know, dude.
See how they're doing. So how you been, man?
Man, doing awesome. Yeah. Just
getting ready for Christmas or
getting ready for Christmas. We have a few presents on the way already.
Yeah.
And
you have a little one too, so
we do. So it's a lot easier. We just buy boxes and she plays with them.
She plays with the boxes.
Yeah, more than the toy.
From the toys that the older one got. Right? Yeah.
Man, you should see her with like paper towels. She's just like, oh my gosh. She doesn't say that, but then, she'll find a little piece of cotton on the floor or something.
Sure.
And she's just, so enamored by it.
Because how old is
she's 10 months.
So she's crawling, starting to maybe pull herself up and walk.
I mean, Emsley is just going, man. It's crazy watching her. She's starting to cruise around the couch. We have this, one of those L-shaped couches.
Sure.
So she'll cruise from one side to the other, and I'm just hoping that she just starts walking. I mean, I know I'm going to get my exercise for sure then.
When she starts walking, you're in trouble because now she's into everything much faster. Right now,
she's already crawling like a madman, man. Yeah. It's crazy.
Isn't it cool to kind of watch them just like grow up and experience new things, learn new things, and then I'm going to tell you right now, you will have so many God moments of just like, oh, that's what God was talking about.
Yeah, right.
When you become like,
it's true. It's already been happening. Yeah.
From a young age like that,
Yeah.
you see them grow and learn and do something that you go, that's not going to be good for you.
Right.
And they do it anyway. And
yeah.
Just waiting like 3-4 more years when Christmas rolls around, when they really start getting excited.
Man.
I remember when I was young, my parents, I would say, why aren't you excited for Christmas like we are? And they're like, well, we're excited that you're excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, lame-os. What are you talking about? And then when you become a parent, I am so excited for my kids' excitement.
Exactly.
It's just,
man.
It's so fun watching them. And obviously we're doing the Charles Spurgeon Advent right now, which is cool. A morning and a night for 28 days leading up to Christmas. So
That's
we do
awesome.
in the morning and then right before they go to bed.
Yeah.
And we try to reinforce what Christmas is about, right? Yeah. The real reason of the season. But
so can I ask, did you ever tell them about Santa? Or no Santa.
No, they knew what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They knew who Saint Nicholas was.
So were they the kids that were in school like, hey, Santa's not real, and then the teachers were calling home?
Well, luckily we homeschool, so they were just telling each other that Santa wasn't real. But going to church,
go to church,
and some of those families don't do that. I have my middle child, Corley. She was definitely the one like, hey, you need to know Santa isn't real. And I was like, well, we had to sit them down. Not every parent, parents the same way.
Yeah, right.
Let's respect their, them telling their children lies.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Bunch of liars.
Hey.
No, I'm joking. Yeah.
Yeah. But, no, we just went, we don't do Tooth Fairy. We don't do Easter Bunny. We don't do Santa. We're just like, we expect our kids not to lie. So I don't want them to get to an age and just go, well, you taught us not to lie, and then you just lied to us the whole time.
Right.
And that might sound harsh for parents out there that are, if you're listening right now and you're a parent and and you do the Santa Claus, please, I'm not making a personal judgment on you. It was just for us and our family, it just made more sense to say, no, the reason for Christmas is the birth of Christ, our Savior, who then died, rose again, beat the power of death. And, and then Easter, obviously, I would even say even more significant than Christmas in the Christian kind of belief system.
Is this our World Series, and then Easter is probably the Super Bowl?
Wait a minute. The World Series more than the Super Bowl.
Oh, you do? Oh, really? You're a baseball guy.
Okay. I like stats.
Yeah. I figure you were more Super Bowl because you do the fantasy football.
I do that because we have a mutual friend, and his name is Ryan Martin.
Okay.
And you can go find him online and tell him I said this, but he ropes me into it every year because he needs a 10th guy, and I know nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like 9 or I don't even know my. I had a guy that was on the injured list for like 5 weeks, and Ryan texts me, goes, you've had that guy in your lineup now for like 3 weeks. He's been out, and I go, oh, is that what that means? He goes, that's what the red O means. It means out. Means he can't play and you're not getting points. I go, oh, jeez. And it's a pay league, too.
Yeah.
So I'm just donating money to whoever wins.
Oh,
Usually,
gosh.
Nathaniel Herrera, you know him, too. He always does really good in it.
Serious? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got roped into doing the basketball one year. And, I literally picked my team and did not touch it again the rest of the year. So I still to this day have no idea how I did.
I just don't have time to watch and dedicate time to it and know who the players are and all that stuff. Heck, I don't even have enough time to remember to set my league half the time most weeks.
Yep.
And I don't know. I just think sometimes that can become a little too obsessive. I know I have an addictive personality. If I really got into it, I could go, hours a day just looking at stats on meaningless football players who promote Black Lives Matter. So
exactly.
I don't really want anything to do with it.
And that have COVID.
They have COVID, yeah. But, talking about Christmas and talking about gifts, and like I said, we try to teach our kids the right way of what Christmas is about, and it's not all about getting gifts, but of course, they have that nature. They have a fleshly nature, like we all do, and they like receiving gifts.
Yeah.
And it's very hard when you have an 11, 9, and 6-year-old to really keep them focused on, giving gifts instead of receiving gifts. But it's ingrained in our culture, which is what we were going to kind of talk about. How did you like that segue?
I loved it. It was
We're going to talk about consumerism.
We are talking about consumerism.
And not just material consumerism. Yeah. But before we do that, you had a couple fun stories you had seen in the news. We are going to start introducing a little segment on here, and we're kind of doing it flying by the seat of our pants tonight.
Yeah.
But in the future, we're going to have a little segment where we'll just talk about news. Some headlines.
Yeah, a couple little headlines.
Maybe it'll be Christian-related, church-related, theological, doctrinally related. Sometimes it's just going to be fun little news snippets that we saw and thought were interesting, and we can discuss for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So what was the first thing you saw?
So I saw that an owl got caught up in the
Third heaven?
Rockefeller. Oh, Todd Bentley. An owl got caught up in the Rockefeller Center tree, I guess, and he's doing well. He has recovered, and he's about to be re-released.
So is that big tree they put up in Central Park?
The big one, yep, by the ice skating rink.
So
outside the Rockefeller Center.
I feel like this would happen all the time. Wouldn't an owl go right to a big tree?
It seems like they would, and I'm pretty sure they cut down that tree, a tree, every year.
And then bring it in, like on a semi, because it's huge.
So I don't know if the owl was already in it on the way there, or if
he just wakes up.
You know,
he's like, New York City.
Yeah, right. New York City.
So was he caught in the tree?
Yeah.
Like he couldn't get out?
He couldn't get out.
So they had to go rescue him?
Well, he was without food and water for a few days, they said. And
no way.
Whoever wrote this, they were on CBS News. They were really horrified for this little baby owl. And there are pictures. There are pictures out here if you want to check it out on cbsnews.com.
Don't send people to cbsfakenews.com. We'll just post the picture for you on our Instagram account.
And then the last thing I was going to bring up, what's his name?
James Bond?
Yeah, but
what were you thinking of?
Sean Connery. Why couldn't I think of his name? Sean Connery. I guess the 007 gun from
like the original
Dr. No. Yes.
So not like the GoldenEye James Bond series. That's Pierce Brosnan.
That sounds like a Nintendo game.
That it was.
Was it?
Yeah, that was based on James Bond.
Yeah. And then
so the original Sean Connery,
original Dr. No gun was just sold.
Now you know I'm a gun guy. Do you know what kind of gun it was?
$256,000.
$256,000.
Let me find.
What kind of gun was it?
You know,
look it up and see.
Look it up now
because I feel like he had some type of Ruger.
It was always a revolver, wasn't it?
It was a pistol.
No, wasn't it?
It was a pistol, I thought. Oh my gosh, there are people that are listening to this podcast right now that are
angry.
huge James Bond fans, dude, and they are so mad at us.
It was a semi-automatic Walther.
That's
PP
what it was.
Gun.
That's what it was. Not a Ruger, a Walther.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool gun. That's a slick looking gun.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Right there's the pick.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
200 and what?
256,000. Did you hear about this guy that bought a banana for $300,000 or $150,000 at some art exhibit?
Was that the one that was duct taped to the wall?
Yeah, duct taped to the wall.
A few months back or whatever.
He did the auction, bought it for $150,000, grabbed it and ate it in front of everyone.
Just like I bought a $200,000 banana, and now I'm gonna eat it,
and he just ate it.
I think we need to do an art installation.
I mean, that sounds
take
great.
A dead men walking hat.
Yeah,
and we'll tack it to the wall, and we're gonna auction it off, guys. We're starting it at $99,000. It'll support the show.
Yeah.
And you can eat it
if
you can
you take a bite of it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
It's new era delicious.
We gotta think of something here. I think we're onto something though. So
because all I need is one person to buy it for $100,000.
Yeah,
I don't need to sell 10,000.
Not multiple
for $100.
Yeah.
How much is I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, just one person's all we need.
I don't know math.
So we got what are you talking about?
Math.
So we got a Walther sold for $250K. Do you know who bought it? Did it say? Did you look and see? Or are we over that story? You already got the phone put down.
I think it was John F. Kennedy Jr.
What? Back from the dead.
No, he actually.
Isn't John F. Kennedy Jr. dead? Right?
Conspiracy theory
that he's
still alive.
That he's still alive, but isn't he like he's been spotted in New York as like a bald guy now with a hat on? I've seen pictures.
He's been to Trump rallies and
really he's a Trump supporter.
Yeah,
John F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah. And
Elaine Bennis would be so upset.
Oh man,
little Seinfeld reference for you guys right there.
All
right, let's get into our subject here.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about consumerism tonight, and when you brought this up, Jason, I said, "What a great idea!" Because consumerism, when we think of consumerism here in the United States, we think of material consumerism, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But it really has a lot of kind of trickle-down effect on everything else. I'm just going to throw out a quick definition like we usually do here on the podcast, just so you kind of know where our frame of mind is, because we know that in this day and age, and I was just talking to someone on social media about this, definitions keep getting redefined. So we want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Consumerism is the preoccupation with consuming more and more goods and services. So not just goods, but consumerist mentality lives with chronic dissatisfaction with what he or she currently possesses, and in juxtaposition to that, often considers that a positive trait. So consumerism, when we're talking about it in physical goods, focuses on having the latest, buying the best, and discarding last year's model in favor of the newest, fanciest, and shiniest. So although that's more of a physical good definition, there are services in there, which I think we're going to get into as well.
It sounds emotional.
It does sound very emotional,
right?
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, psychologists and psychiatrists, they actually treat people for consumerism, and they usually find that it has deep-rooted emotional issues attached to it, needing more, wanting more, always trying to fulfill with material goods, services, emotional consumerism through relationships, things like that.
Right.
Full disclosure, I'm not a licensed psychologist
or
psychiatrist, so
nope. You've tried with me, but it does not.
not gonna stick.
Gotcha.
So maybe we can give some biblical verses or some biblical references. Did you have something, or did you want me to start
I
with
just
something?
I had some verses that that I could throw out.
Yeah, see what we got.
Hebrews 13:5.
Nice.
Keep your life free from love of money.
Love of money.
And be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you.
I love that.
Yeah.
So he's saying the reason why not to have a love for money, and it doesn't say keep yourself free from money, right? Now, we're not prosperity preachers. In fact, we come against that pretty wholeheartedly here on the podcast, anyone who's listened for any amount of time. But the Bible never says that money itself is evil, right? It says the love of money. And it says be content with what you have. And why? Because he said, I will never leave you or forsake you. For God is saying, I will never leave you or forsake you. So be content in everything you have, because your contentment is in me. And we talked about this a little bit on one of our shorts that are going to be coming out here soon on contentment. Look to that. We're also starting a new segment here, a little segment on little 5-minute shorts.
Yeah.
Called Dead Men Walking Shorts. We'll do little 5 minutes on contentment, on meekness, on different subjects. Keep it to 5 minutes, and it'll be packed full of information for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. So we had touched on our contentment being in Christ, and that's really what Hebrews 13:5 I think is saying there. What do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, just to dig a little bit deeper into that, I mean, we can find ourselves even in the church not content in certain situations. Maybe at a church, maybe they're not singing the right music, maybe the pastor isn't saying preaching the way that you want them to.
Sure.
Doctrinally it's okay.
It's important. You're saying like stylistically,
but stylistically,
visually,
visually, if they have different carpet, if they have, if they're not serving you the right coffee temperature or the right coffee or whatever. So you're like, I'm getting out of here because this just isn't for me. And then the music, oh my goodness, it's just not what I want. Well, so I'm going to go across the street.
Well, here's the problem. And you hit it on the head. We're talking about contentment, but that's consumerism essentially makes you seek sensationalism. Like you said, it's an emotional, you're trying to fill an emotional gap, right? So what you see is that trickle down into kind of the church hopping, seeking goods and services from a church. You're like, hey, I want a certain type of music. I want to consume that. I want a certain type of preacher. I want to consume that. I want a certain type of look. I can consume that. I want a certain type of coffee and children's ministry and all these things. And consumerism really leads to discontentment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So
complacency.
I think complacency as well too. I think it trickles down. So when we talk about Christians and consumerism, it's not just Christians who have to have the latest and greatest thing.
Right.
Not the the latest and greatest truck or jet ski or house or clothes or whatever it is. I think it trickles down into more walks of life, and especially into attending church, just like you said.
Yeah, narcissism floats into that because it's all about, what do I want from this service, and it has nothing to do with, well, what is God trying to teach me here in this moment, in this music that may not be working out for me, or, I mean, maybe the pastor's coming down a little bit harder than you're used to, and you're just like, well, what about you? And you're sitting there. but yeah.
Yeah, and
your heart
consumerism
gets stirred up a little bit.
Consumerism, by definition, is very self-involved.
Yeah.
It's very self-pleasing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the reason why you're going out and consuming is to get a certain emotional feeling, an attachment, a feeling, a filling of a void, like I just said. So by definition, consumerism is, is very self-involved.
Yeah.
And the Christian is called to selflessness, right? We're supposed to be crucified with Christ, raised up with him, no longer our will, but his will.
Yep.
Right?
Amen.
So, and I want people to hear this too. I'm not saying it's bad to own material goods. Yeah. I'm not saying it's sinful to have nice things. I think anytime, and you touched on this a little bit before we started recording, anytime it gets to a point of consumerism to where I need that to fulfill something in me, well, then that's a form of idolatry.
Right.
Now we've moved into idolatry. And, I have a personal prayer to the Lord that, and my father actually taught me this, is give me just enough to survive and get by, but don't ever give me too much to where I take my eyes off you.
Yeah.
Right? Like I want to be right in that middle place. I don't need $100 million, but Lord, if you could feed me, clothe me, and shelter me, my family, and my children, and make me comfortable to a point to where I'm not so comfortable that I take my eyes off you, because I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
In my own fleshly desires, I do not trust myself. When things are going good, it takes everything in me not to take my eyes off Christ. Now, and I'm admitting that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm some pious, great Christian
you're
where
not
it's like
the only one. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I only take comfort in that because I look at men and women of God in the Bible that things got really good. They almost acted like they didn't need God anymore.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're in that valley and you're sitting there, just like, why is this happening? And you're going through the emotion of that, and you just want out of it. Well, it's, I think John Piper, didn't he say, don't take me out of the valley until I've learned exactly what I need to learn in this. I mean, I've had how to glorify you in it. Yeah. I've learned at times, that I will just be in that valley for months. I mean, for months. I've had a few years that I felt like, oh man, it was one of those. It was just a cycle. It would run for 4 months. I thought I learned, and all of us, nope, not at all.
Sure.
And it turns into that. It's just a pleasantry.
Well, I think it's important too when you get into those valleys too, when you have a paradigm shift of how you deal with those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about it before. And some people's valleys are deeper than others. I just had a friend on Facebook posting, very publicly about her struggle. She's a believer. Her struggle with depression.
Oh wow.
And the D word isn't a bad word.
Right.
Like Christians have depression even when they're saved. That's a real thing. The church I was at this morning, actually, he was preaching on that and said that exact word. Is like people can be depressed when they're believers, but it's who we cling to in those times of depression, how we perceive what is happening, and how we rightly see God during those times. Right. I think that's the important part on how we deal with that and how we deal with it biblically. But getting back to consumerism, I think it also... it forms ungratefulness, right, in our hearts.
Yep.
When we're always trying to fulfill our fleshly desires with consumerism, whether it be goods or services or a certain type of church service or whatever it is we mentioned, the mentality feeds off an ungrateful spirit. Philippians 4:11 says, not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. And then 1 Timothy 6:8 says what I was just saying a few minutes ago, but if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a running theme here to where consumerism and contentment are kind of, two different sides of the same coin. They parallel, or they almost have a relationship.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're content, then it's harder to slip into consumerism.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whenever I was thinking about this subject, writing down some notes, I mean, I started thinking even about just how, if you're looking for the next new shiny thing, it could float into so many different areas of life. I mean, and one huge one that I think is affecting our culture in a huge way is men and women that don't want to get married, or have babies, or they're afraid to commit to just one person, because what if there's somebody else out there that might be better than the person that is in front of them, or that they're with for 6-7 years, and then all of a sudden they're just like, I just don't feel like being with this person anymore, and I'm just going to go over here and go to a dating site where I can see 1,000 people, all their pictures, and
swipe right.
Yeah, swipe right, and try to figure out, well, this isn't the one. No, she's not pretty. Oh no, her earlobes are too big, or whatever,
Right.
But it's like, man, this floats into so many areas in life.
Well, in that example, it absolutely is consumerism. They're consuming an emotional attachment, a physical attachment, fulfilling themselves and saying, look, I'm just going to, no commitment because I want to go to the next person. Right. I know lots of Christians, which my wife and I have talked about this too, about dating versus courting, right? And we're going to have that discussion with our daughters here sooner than later, unfortunately. My daughters aren't going to date until they're 50, but
there you go.
That still feels too soon as a father.
50? Mine's going to be 65.
60, getting Social Security.
Yeah, right.
Well, you got your first AARP letter. You can date now.
It's time.
It's time. But I know many Christians that are that are addicted to the consumerism of the very first 3 months, 6 months, 1 year of a relationship.
Right.
Because of the way it makes them feel, the excitement, the physical, the emotional, even sometimes the mental connection that you make with another person. And it's really sad because it is a form of consumerism.
Oh, yeah.
Once again, we're not just talking about material goods. Of course, that's very prevalent in the United States. When you say consumerism, we think stuff because we have a lot of stuff. But you can be a consumer of relationships, and wrongly so.
Yeah.
And not good for the unbeliever, and definitely not good for the professing Christian.
Right. Well, and even friendships on social media, that can really feed into your, into your ego and your...
I know people who consume social media.
Oh my gosh.
I've been caught up in that.
Yeah.
I talked about it on here. I had to step away from consuming political content.
Serious.
I was just, it was like night and day. I was spending more time in political content than I was in the Word about 2 years ago. And I was justifying it by like, I'm using that information to compare it to godly principles and trying to, do what's right in local government. And the Lord was just like, no, you're doing it because it gives you an escape. It gives you an excuse not to be in the Word.
Right.
And it makes you feel, I don't know what the word is. Not superior, but it almost feels like, well, I know this and I can argue this. And it was really just self-gratifying. And it was not glorifying God at all.
Right.
And I got super convicted of it after some prayer and my wife and some other people coming to me. Yeah. And I posted a few, because I'm still on social media. I backed away. Sure. Yeah. But I posted something, a few months ago, and it was just like, I've been so disconnected and I say disconnected, I'm probably still consuming more political content than 50% of the United States.
Yeah. Well, you kind of have to,
but
in a way.
Way backed off, and it was like the most peaceful year of my life this last year.
Yeah. Wow.
It was like in the Word, with the kids, homeschool, that's praying, awesome. And then not really getting into, I had a whole folder of all my news apps, man. I'd get up every morning and boom, boom, boom. Yeah. My left, my right, my moderate, my, secondary sources, my primary, and look at it all, read it all, dwell on it. It's like, before I knew it, I was an hour. I'd been up in bed for an hour, hadn't even got out of bed, and already had an hour's worth of, this content in my mind rolling around. And the Lord just convicted me like he rightly does.
Yeah.
And I've never felt, like I said, we still look at stuff and we do stuff for the show, and you got to be aware.
Right.
But man, not having that consumer mentality of that information, has just really freed me.
Or the missing out, like you're going to miss out on
Yeah.
something as well. I think
Or-
I went through that a little bit.
Or I got to get to the bottom of it, or prove this
Right,
person wrong or right,
Right.
or have this information so I know about it. So when this subject comes up, I can say, oh yeah, what about this? And
Right.
it was just very argumentative in nature. It was very, I don't know. It just wasn't good for my mental or spiritual
Right.
health.
Yep.
And yeah, I freely admit that there was a spirit of consumerism there.
Yeah.
Because it was all these things we just talked about. It was ungratefulness. I was dissatisfied. I was, trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? I just drew a blank.
Just feeding.
Trying to consume, myself.
Yeah.
Trying to please myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Narcissistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to, before I was reformed, I used to do a lot of church visiting.
Mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, no, never. Well, I mean, I do love mushrooms on my salads and my pizza. Hey, now. Thank you. I used to do a lot of church hopping. I would be like, oh, man, this is cool, and then I would move on either within a week or, a month or whatever
1 week.
was. I know.
You gave one service, boy.
Yeah, man.
You guys get one
Like,
Sunday and 1 mid service
But,
out of me, then I'm out.
I was sitting there with my arms crossed, just staring at him.
That's right.
Just being like, go ahead,
Make my
give
day.
me your best.
But yeah, man, I was never like that. But yeah, I mean, it was so easy to just go a mile down the road to a different church because there are churches everywhere.
Yeah.
There are people with platforms everywhere. There are podcasts everywhere. You should really just listen to Dead Men Walking podcast.
That's right.
But no, I'm joking. But or am I? But there's tons of podcasts.
Sure.
There's so much music out there. There are so many different movies out there. I mean, everything is competing for your attention at all times. And it's like, I mean, you're consuming all these different things, but I think within the, where's the contentment in any of that? Like,
Right.
where are we content just in hearing an expository preacher who is just going line for line rather than hearing someone that has a new comedy act,
Right.
a new joke to tell that week.
Right.
And he just can't wait to throw it in there, or he's just up there, telling you about his week, and it sounds like it could just be a podcast,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like we have so many different things that could draw our attention away from Christ, and I just really would love to see, the church come back to saying, okay, this isn't about me and my next breakthrough. This isn't about me and my next healing. This isn't about me, running out there and trying to heal somebody and then tell them about the gospel. No, this is like, we tell people about the gospel. We talk about Christ. We talk about, the things that Scripture says.
Right.
And that's where our life should be centered.
Absolutely.
Centered around.
Yeah. So one last point I had, and then if you wanted to add anything else to consumerism, I noticed that consumerism also leads to jealousy.
Yeah.
Which jealousy usually, when long term in someone's life, then moves into envy, which is that next level up. And I've been seeing a lot of people in our culture go right to envy. We're even setting policies. So let me unpack that a little bit. So jealousy says, I want what you have. I want it. Envy takes it a step further and says, because I don't have it, you shouldn't have it either, and I should have it. So envy actually takes it from you. So when the Bible talks about God being righteously jealous after his children, because he rightly owns us and someone else owns us when we idol worship and turn and those things. It never says he's an envious God. Envious God, envious says you shouldn't have it because I want it. which we're seeing even like political policies, like, oh, the rich are too rich. They shouldn't have those things they worked
Right.
for because there's people who don't have it.
Yeah.
So we've moved as a culture in from just normal jealousy through consumerism to now it's been infested with us for so long in this country. We've now moved up into consumerism that's just goes right to envious. Covetousness. Thank you. That's another word for it, right? In the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
So, consumerism, when goes unchecked for a long time, turns into jealousy. Then jealousy then turns into envy. And then you get into a state that we're in this country that says, hey, you who worked very hard, who used biblical principles, who, got up early, stayed up late, worked hard, read just your life reads like a proverb.
Mm-hmm.
You've made X amount of money. But me over here, who it says, in Proverbs, the sluggard can barely raise his hand to turn over in bed because he doesn't want to get out, doesn't work, doesn't have godly principles, and goes, oh, no, you're not allowed to have those material goods or that money that you worked for so hard for because I don't have it. Yeah. That's what consumerism ultimately leads to. And we're seeing that in our country right now, even with the Marxism and the socialistic kind of rhetoric that we're hearing from our political leaders, and even, laws that have been enacted over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years that are trying to level the playing field, right? We hear fair share, right? I hate to break it to the Christians that that love that fair share talk. God is not fair.
Right.
God is just.
Right.
Fair is man's idea of justice. Justice is the right legal action of God. I would love to make a T-shirt that just says God isn't fair. Yeah. And then have someone go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, right.
He's not fair.
Yeah.
Life isn't fair.
Yeah.
But God is just.
Exactly.
I read this thing. It was a quote. And I don't know who it was. If any listeners out there know who said it, I saw this quote. I can't remember who said it, but it said, "Justice is getting exactly what we deserve. Mercy is God withholding from us what we deserve. Grace is getting something we don't deserve."
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
And it's a famous...
That was Todd White.
No, it wasn't. It was definitely not Todd White. If I had to pick my top 3 of who it might be, he would not be in the top 3 for saying that. No.
Oh, yeah. Well,
oh man. So what else you got on consumerism? We'll wrap it up here. We're getting to the 40-minute mark.
I just had one more verse that I was going to share. And,
share as many as you want.
Yeah,
Bible's always good.
Right. Haggai 1, 5-6. Now, therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. You have sown much and harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You clothe yourselves, but no one is warm. And he who earns wages does so to put them into a bag with holes.
Wow.
Yeah, that one's
in your face.
That one's straight up in the grill.
I'm gonna end with one of my favorite verses, Matthew 6:19-21, and I'm sure everyone's heard it. Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves rather treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Yeah, amen.
Isn't that powerful?
Amen.
Where your treasures are, that's where your heart will be.
Yeah.
So guess what? If you lay up treasures here on earth, that's where your heart is. It's focused on earth. If you're laying treasures up in heaven, that's where your heart is. It's up in heaven.
Yep.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. As always, make sure you check us out on social media. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Parler at Dead Men Walking Podcast. Just type that in Google or type it in any social media. We'll come right up. We do really appreciate all your follows and likes and reshares, your comments. I know we Jason and I get private messages as well with comments. We've had voicemails saying, hey, we've been listening to the podcast. We've been ministered to it. Man, that stuff just...
it's just awesome.
Just makes us so happy that we can bring glory to God. Just 2 normal dudes sitting here talking about the Bible. None of us have went to, divinity school or, have theological degrees or anything like that, but we love the Lord. We love the Word. We love talking about it, and we love that you guys love listening to it and then responding to it. But as always, if you're on Apple or Spotify or any of those places too where you're listening, leave us a review or a comment. That always helps as well. And then if you want to support the show, you can do so by going over to dmwpodcast.com. We have merch for sale there. All that money goes right back into supporting the show, like these spiffy sound pad walls here that we have.
You guys should jump on YouTube.
Some foam pads. Yeah, check us out on YouTube.
Yeah.
We've been getting a lot more traction on YouTube. People watching the videos. It was so funny when I first started listening to podcasts. I said, "Who's going to watch a podcast?"
I know, right?
And now it's all I do is watch podcasts, dude. Right. And I watch our podcast.
Yeah,
I watch other
exactly.
podcasts. I go, I don't know why I'm watching two people talk, but there's just something about it where I get sucked into it. So we've seen an uptick on our viewership on YouTube. You guys can check us out there too. It's of course Dead Men Walking Podcast. But Jason, before we go, did we have any final words?
No.
Well, thanks, guys. And as always, God bless.